This is your homework for solving quadratic equations, the review. Let's do it together. The best is if you try it first and then press play. You know that. Try your best. If you need my support, this is what it's here for. So solve this one by factoring. Step one is to make it equal to 0. At any time you can press pause if you need to. So if I said what two numbers multiply to negative 91 add to negative 6, press pause, think about it, write down your answer, and then I'll do it. So the two numbers are negative 13 and 7. Each factor has a solution. So I do the inverse. So positive 13 and negative 7 are the zeros for each factor. Number two, I want to use the square root method. I have no linear term. So you can subtract 146 and then divide by negative 2. Now a negative divided by a negative is a positive answer, and half of 180 is 90. Take the square root. 90 can be simplified using 9 times 10. The square root of 9 is 3, and what's left over is 10. Number 3. Again, try. If you need my support, then that's what it's here for. All right, step 1. A does equal positive 1, so the B value is negative 14. I'm going to divide it by 2 and square it. So negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Square it, it's 49. So we have x squared, subtract 14x. We're going to add 49 and we're going to subtract 49. We still have 53 and 9 as well. So we're going to simplify this. So inside the parentheses, we're actually going to use this number is going to help us. What number times itself is 49 and adds to negative 14? That will always match. So it's going to be negative 7 and negative 7. So we write it squared. Negative 49 plus 53 is 4. Now subtract 4. Take the square root. Know the answer is positive or negative. And then the last step is to add 7. Number 3, we're going to complete the square again. A is not 1. So we're going to combine like terms and then divide to make it 1. So I'm going to add 62 and then I'm going to divide everything by 3. Once A is positive 1, then you can complete the square. So B is 2, so divide by 2 and square it. So that means I'm going to add 1 and subtract 1. To factor this, use the number inside the parentheses, which is 1. So 1 times 1 is 1 and adds up to 2. Add 1 to the other side. Square root. Recognize the answer is both positive and negative. To simplify 24, use 4 times 6. And then the last step is to subtract 1. So that's negative 1 plus or minus. Now the square root of 4 is 2 root 6. Done. The next method is the quadratic formula. To use the quadratic formula, it must be equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 1. A is negative 1, B is 7, C is negative 1. And now I'm going to use the quadratic formula. So it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Simplify it one step at a time. So a negative times a negative times a negative, that's a negative 4. 49 take away 4 is 45. That can be simplified. That's 9 times 5. So we have negative 7 plus or minus 3 root 5 all over negative 2. You could also get the same answer by multiplying top and bottom by -1 and get positive 7 plus or minus the root of 5 over positive 2. Same answer. Number 6, I'm going to use the quadratic formula. So I need to make it equal to 0. Subtract x, add 2, and now write down what a equals, what b equals, what c equals, and now use the quadratic formula. That's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's positive 1. This is positive 1. Take away 40 over 10. 1 subtract 40 is negative 39. That's prime. So we can only write it as I root 39 over 10. The second half of your homework. Each equation you're going to solve and you're going to pick which one's best. So the best would be if you press pause, look at each one, and then decide which one you're going to use. So I'm finding the discriminant for each one. So b squared minus 4ac So again, b squared minus 4ac. We have no b value here, no linear term. So this simplifies to 16. So we have 2 rational roots. All right, so which one am I going to use for each one? So the ones that are irrational or complex, I look at it carefully. C is going to be my quadratic formula. A, because A I can change easily to positive 1, B is an even number. A is going to be completing the square. B, one rational root, we're going to factor that one. And then the last one, D, that's the one with no linear term that we're going to do square roots. So did you do that on your own? Did you pick those for those options? So let's factor. So 4x squared, subtract 20x plus 25. Draw a diamond. 4 times 25 and negative 10. What two numbers? Now because it's one rational root, this is the same number because it's one answer only. So negative 10 times negative 10, they add up to negative 20. So we have 4x squared minus 10 plus 25. Then factor by grouping. So the first two, I'm going to factor out a 2x. I'm left with 2x subtract 5. The next two, I'm going to factor out a negative 5. And I have 2x subtract 5 left over. So we have 2x subtract 5, 2x subtract 5. We could write it squared to recognize there's only one solution. Add 5 and divide by 2, and you have your one answer. For the square root method, that's D. So we have 1/2 x squared subtract 8. We're going to isolate. We're going to solve for x squared. So add 8. To undo 1/2, you multiply both sides by 2. And then you take the square root, and that answers positive and negative 4. To complete the square, we're going to take equation A. A needs to be positive 1. So we're going to divide everything by negative 1. And then the B value is negative 4. So we're going to take negative 4, divide by 2, and square it. So that's negative 2 squared or positive 4. We're going to use both numbers. So first we're going to use 4. We're going to add 4, use parentheses. We're going to subtract 4. Everything else stays the same. The parentheses is factorable using -2. So it's -2 and -2. -4 plus 11 is 7. And now we're going to solve this. So we're going to subtract 7. We're going to square root both sides. When you take the square root of a negative number, it's positive and negative, but it's imaginary. And then the last step is to add 2 to the other side, and you have your 2 complex roots. That's completing the square. The last one is the quadratic formula. So write down equation C. The best is if you press pause, and then do it, and then press play. A is -3, B is -11, C is 2. The quadratic formula, -b plus or minus the square root. I think I'm going to lose pen power here. B squared minus, let's see if this one works, minus 4ac So -11 squared is 121 over 2a. And then just simplify it one step at a time. So a negative times a negative is a positive 11. Negative times a negative is positive. So that's 12 times 2, positive, that's 24. Uh, 121 and 24 is 145. That's prime, and it's over. So the answer is 11 plus or minus the square root of 145 divided by -6. Anyway, you did your homework. I'm proud of you. Mr. G Math over and out. Until next time.